Hi there, this is John Frenay, and welcome to an Encore presentation of our Legacy Business Spotlight. These are best done in person, and with the current state of emergency restrictions, that's just not possible. So we will be re-releasing our past episodes every Saturday at noon until this pandemic is in our collective rearview mirror. Until then, enjoy this Encore presentation of our Legacy Business Spotlight.
Some businesses succeed, some don't. Then there are those that seem to have been around forever. The true entrepreneurial success story. How did they do it? What was their vision? What makes a success? In this special episode for Eye on Annapolis, we speak with the true success stories, those business owners that have been around for decades, learn from their successes and failures. Now, here's host John Frenay.
I can't think of a better place to be sitting than on a porch overlooking Back Creek with Debbie Gosselin, who is the president and CEO, owner, and pretty much everything with Watermark Journey, which is Watermark Cruises, Annapolis Tours. Pretty much the center of tourism and locals here in Annapolis on the waterfront. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
This is awesome. I mean, Watermark has been, and I don't know whether it's always been called Watermark, but certainly the Harbor Queen has been around. That was like the icon when I moved here in '96, and the water taxis, of course. But we just wanted to sit down and find out how you've done it. Where did it all start? And I know, what I know about Watermark is that it was your father's business.
Correct.
And I think at one point you told me that there was not going to be any of the, we'll just give it to Debbie. She had to earn it. And everything else. So how did Watermark get its start? When was that? Well,
the company started in 1972. My father was an attorney, but he loved boats. He just always loved boats.
Okay, I want to interrupt you. This is very strange because Jeff Jacobs at Carroll's Creek, his father was an attorney and got into a business that was totally un-attorney-ish.
Being an attorney, you're just solving problems all the time. Although I think any business, you are solving problems all the time.
Without a
just
doubt.
Different kinds.
But a love of boats.
Yeah, a love of boats, love of the water, and a love of Annapolis and the Chesapeake. And I've lived here all my life and haven't found a good reason to leave yet. I started working for him when I had babies and was looking for something. He needed somebody to help him, and I was looking for something to do while I was being a young mom. And eventually it turned into a full-time job, and then in 1999, I purchased the company from him. And so it's been a great transfer to the second generation.
It's neat that you see that. And I know that Jared Lippman from KB True Value, he also purchased True Value from his father-in-law on that. And it's great to see a transfer of generation because, I mean, you've certainly growing up in it and you know what has made it successful from the start. And I'm sure as the young kid, you've got plenty of new ideas that you could implement as well.
Well, you're always looking for new ideas and trying to stay relevant. But at the end of the day, customer service and trying to provide a good product, good value at the right price and making people happy is at the core of what we do. And human nature hasn't really changed over the years. And we constantly look for ways to make people smile and have them enjoy what we love, which is Annapolis and our history and the fun of living here.
It's funny, Jeff Bezos had said that he didn't expect Amazon to be around forever in a recent address to his employees. He said at some point, if we aren't able to keep the customer happy, we're done. And keep that in mind that it's going to happen at some point. We're not sure when it is. But what did the Watermark look like? What did Watermark look like back in 1972?
Well, in 72, it was one boat, and it wasn't Harbor Queen. There was another gentleman who owned Harbor Queen at the time. He had just had her built. He had a smaller one before that, and his name was Paul Kloss, and my father and Bert Jabin,
the
starter
nautical name in town
of Jabin's Yacht Yard, and another man from Maine, purchased a boat and got a lease with the city and started operating just cruises to St. Michael's and back every day. The next year, Mr. Kloss decided to retire, and so they doubled the fleet from one boat to two boats in one season. And the rest is sort of history. Over the years, more boats have been added very slowly in the beginning, and then in the 80s, we added the water taxi, and in the 90s, we started adding what we now refer to as the charter boats, but a different level of finish and something that corporations and or brides would want to go out on the water on and enjoy.
I know I love seeing when the Capitol runs their prom pictures. There's always somebody that usually it might be like Key or
Yes.
Indian Creek,
Indian Creek.
One of the smaller private schools where it would typically not be a 1,000-person prom. It does it on one of the, pretty much like the Catherine Marie or one of the other.
Yeah, they do use Catherine Marie, and they've been doing it every year for years, and they love it. It's a safe way to enjoy yourself, and you don't have to worry about people leaving.
Without a doubt. So you've grown into the water taxi. You operate the water taxis, which ply the waters of Annapolis Harbor, Spa Creek, Back Creek,
Yes.
and the mooring fields.
Correct.
That are out there. And I know that you're sort of on demand. I mean, you can hail them by radio, you can call them by telephone. And Back Creek is operated a little bit less frequently than Spa Creek because that's not quite where all the passengers are.
There's not as much traffic in Back Creek, and we've got a 6-mile-an-hour limit for most of the cruising grounds, so it takes a while to get to Back Creek. So it means that you've got a boat out of the harbor for some time if somebody has to go to Back Creek. So we try to concentrate it. And as long as we're called by quarter of the hour, we'll leave City Dock on the hour and be back in Back Creek around quarter after. So people have gotten to know that schedule, that routine, and it means that we're much more efficient about having boats moving and making sure we're getting people where they need to be without waiting too much.
What challenges have you faced as you've added onto the fleet? Obviously, you've got to, with the new boats come new people that work for you.
Yes.
And and I look at where you are in the community. I mean, you are always front and center. I mean, certainly you've got, I'll say, assets to protect down at City Dock because, I mean, you've got a business to run. So you're always a voice with improvements on City Dock. I know that you work with WR&R for the Rock and River Cruise. I know you've done several of these different cruises, which is just is great. I mean, you see people that are smiling, and one R&R River Cruise, it was the greatest thing in the world I ever saw. The boat left, and there was some woman just hauling ass down City Dock. Got there.
We've got a runner. We love that.
She stomped her feet, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And the boat was already out of the harbor. One of your water taxis picked her up, met her off the seawall in the Severn River. I mean, we're totally in the Severn. We're out of the harbor. The harbor queen stopped. The water taxi pulled up, and she got on the boat, and she was able to have it there. And that really sort of speaks to the mindset that you have. I mean, I've been on the dog cruises, I've been on the sightseeing cruises, and I do tell a lot of people here because, I mean, I'm certainly not a lifer like you are. I've been here since '96, and I said, it's always something unique that you learn if you be a tourist in your own town.
Yes.
There's always some little nugget that I can pick up from one of your captains or one of your crew, or maybe it's one of your guides in the walking tours that you have that is like, wow, okay, I've got one that I'll tell you after we stop recording because I can't say it on the, but that I said, okay, I think I know where that phrase came from.
Yeah, we all learn every day and we all share information every day. And I think what brings our employees to Watermark, we're a seasonal business. We have 23 full-time year-round employees now, but we have about 200 seasonal employees among the guides and the captains and the crew and the ticket sellers and the bartenders. And they all love this area, and this gives them an opportunity to share their passion for Annapolis and for the water. And we're in Baltimore too, but it's the same thing on the waterfront in Baltimore. They love sharing the Chesapeake and the waterfront.
They are, and everybody has a different viewpoint of it. I don't know. You said you grew up on the water. I mean, I don't know whether you grew up sailing. So you've got a little bit of a different viewpoint than maybe somebody that was growing up with power boats or that was always using somebody else's boat or never been on
I've done all three of those. They're all good.
They say that owning a boat is like just a big hole in the water where you pour money into it. And obviously, you could probably attest to that to a degree.
Yeah, we've got 12 boats, and I've lost track of how many engines we have between the generators and the main engines on the boats. It's a lot of overhead. It's a lot to keep up. Anything that you spend on a boat, it seems to cost more than similar equipment on land.
It starts with pumping the fuel in the in the tank, that's
and
for sure.
You mentioned the interest that we have in City Dock and protecting our investment. It really is an investment. We are planning now for maintenance 3 to 5 years out. We want to make sure that our employees know that this is a place that has a future and will be here for them, because we want the best people to be part of what we do, and you can only do that if they believe that you are not just here for today, but that you will continue to be here.
Well, the investment is not just you either. I mean, you are invested in this town. You are one of the largest tourism drivers in the area. And certainly you look at the revenues, and that folds into hotel nights, and that folds into hotel taxes. That folds into eating at the local restaurants and drinking at the local bars at night as well. All on maybe it's a 45-minute cruise up the Severn River on the Harbor Queen. Maybe it's a day over to St. Michael's.
Yeah, we service a couple 100,000 people every year, and they don't just go on our boats. They are eating, they are shopping, they are going to the nonprofits, they're going to Historic Annapolis, the Paca House, Hammond Harwood House, the State House, and they're spending money when they come here. We do a lot of field trips, as you probably know, especially in May with the walking tourists.
Right.
The streets
where the town floods with the yellow buses.
The yellow buses and school kids and our colonial guides. It's really been fun to watch over the years people who came here in 4th grade studying Maryland history with their elementary school come back later as a teacher with their class. And we've seen several generations of that. And also they'll bring their parents back. And then the parents will bring more people. I mean, Annapolis is a beautiful little town, and we're blessed to have this attraction. And it kind of sells itself as long as you get people to come here the first time. And we don't use the word tourism or tourist. We call them visitors, because everybody's a visitor, whether they're visiting from Severna Park and they consider themselves local, or whether they're visiting from India. I think that the term tourist has a negative perspective sometimes, or connotation. But we're all visitors, right? Nobody wants to think of themselves as a tourist, but we all visit places. And we want people to enjoy it in the same way that we do.
And the field trips, I mean, obviously you've got them on your boats and you've got them on your walking tours as well, but you also work with some of the other organizations. You said you work with Historic Annapolis. I know that you've taken some people out for the Annapolis Maritime Museum as well.
Yes, that's right. We're a big partner with the Annapolis Maritime Museum. We appreciate their mission. Their environmental education and STEM programming is wonderful. They are right down the street from our home base for our boats now at the Nature Park.
The Eleanor Moyer Nature Park?
Yes,
that's a great
Road.
New addition to that.
It's a wonderful facility for them. We actually started out in the 80s with a program that we called Treasure Our Water. And it was a 2-hour field trip program where we talked to students about the forest buffer, just watershed ecology. And you have the wastewater treatment plant right across the street, and then you've got a water tower right there in the nature park. So you've got this whole water cycle, natural and man-made, illustrated right there. And then we would take them out on the water and show them things like the osprey and a bulkhead versus a rock jetty and a natural shoreline. And we can't, as a private company, we couldn't compete with Chesapeake Bay Foundation or some of these nonprofits. So I was very pleased. Once the Annapolis Maritime Museum got going, I said, okay, now you guys can take over this program and other ones, and we will support you.
It.
Yep. So we provide our vessels for them to take out school kids, and we do oyster drops, we do critter cruises, we do all kinds of things for them. But it's how we help with environmental education.
I know you
and
also
stewardship.
helped with the Oyster Recovery Partnership
Yes.
last year when they were putting the spats in the water.
And we'll do that again this year.
To come out and to help bring a vessel out to be able to watch that planting a reef, which is sort of a bizarre kind of a concept when you think about it, but it's neat.
When you understand what oysters do, it's so important, and all of us who live here and love it here want the water to be clean. So without
a doubt. And I know I spoke with Alice over at the Maritime Museum, and I know that some of the things that they said they absolutely love when you get a kid on a field trip or in one of their camps or one of their programs that has never been to the Chesapeake Bay, and very sadly, there are a number of them in Annapolis.
Yes.
That have yet to see the water that we've got.
They've never been on a boat. Yeah, they've never experienced it.
To see that she said, to get the letters from teachers in Frederick or someplace that may have come down for a field trip to say, oh my gosh, this was the best thing in the world for these kids that have never.
It's rewarding for all of us, and I know for the staff at the Maritime Museum, but it's also a way that we can let them know they are in the watershed, and even though they can't see any of the tributaries, there are still things they can do to help make sure it stays viable.
I know, I've seen those signs. My daughter is down in Western North Carolina, and I sometimes come across and I see the signs like in very, very southern Virginia, and I'm like, yes, almost home. And I'm like, oh no, that's 5 more. So the Chesapeake Bay watershed, I mean, it does go from New York.
Yes.
Cooperstown-ish is kind of where I think it begins.
It's way up there.
And,
it is in upstate New York.
Certainly, and you've got Pennsylvania. And I'm going to bring in Pennsylvania, and thank you guys again for cleaning up all of Pennsylvania's trash when it came down. Okay, you don't have to diss Pennsylvania. I'll diss Pennsylvania. But over this past winter,
many of our guests come from there.
But they had to open up the dams because of the rains and the snow, and a lot of stuff came out of Pennsylvania, flowed down the Chesapeake Bay, and we basically had Ego Alley in Annapolis, which was pretty much walkable across with all the junk that was in it.
It was amazing. I've never seen it like that before.
And you, on your slow time, when everybody is, kicked up with their feet on their desk doing nothing, joke, brought your people down. You rented little bobcats. You rented little,
The city brought in the equipment. We just provided humans,
the labor to scoop this junk out of the harbor because, we are a visitor town.
Yes. It looked awful.
All year round, and to see that was just brutal.
Yeah, and I actually was going by there and saw a couple of the harbor master staff trying to pull that stuff out, and it was such a huge task, and I just thought, I can't let them do that by themselves. And so I made the call and said, who can we round up to go down? It probably won't be for more than a couple of hours if we have lots of hands down there.
And to pat yourself on the back, or for me to pat you on the back one more, and I've noticed some of your boats with armed police officers at times too, and when the police departments, and we have so many police departments in the area between
the
county.
That's not because of a safety issue.
No, you're providing training.
Yes.
The ability. Okay, we are like it or not, we may be a target for something. I mean, with the Naval Academy, the seat of county government, the seat of state government, and everything else, and we've got all these different law enforcement agencies in the area that do need to train. Could there be a threat, or could there be a need to train on the water? Absolutely, but who steps up? You guys.
Well, we're happy to do it, and it's a win-win. It helps them, it helps us. We want them to know who we are, and you never know what kind of emergency there might be. We want them to know they can count on us if we need to be out there helping them, and also if we need help from them, we want them to know who we are and know how our boats work and how they can access them. So we're really happy to do it, and the captains and the crew love it. It's very exciting for them. See a grappling hook come up over the back of Harbor Queen and somebody scaling it up. It's exciting.
Pretty neat.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
But thank you for knowing that.
You had mentioned the Peka House and the Hammond Harwood House and where they go to visit. And you guys have a unique relationship with Historic Annapolis. I know that I've been on your haunted ghost tour.
Oh, thank you.
At around Halloween time, typically. And the unique part about that walking tour is that you do, with the partnership that you have with Historic Annapolis, you do have access into the Peka House and the Bryce House when it's not under construction and whatnot to do that. And those stories are fantastic, and they're great. I know that former Mayor Dick Hillman was our guide one night.
Yes, he's a very good guide.
He's just absolutely wonderful. I had a weird thing happen. I was in the Peka House and taking pictures inside, and they would not transmit no matter what I did.
Really?
And I said, it's the brick walls. I went outside. I tried to transmit the pictures taken inside. Wouldn't go out on my phone. Nothing, no how, no way.
Can we use that story?
Yeah, I'll write it up to you and tell you. It was weird. When I came back home, I put them on my computer and tried to upload, and I kept getting file error.
Wow.
And only when I renamed the file to something else other than whatever the camera named it would it go.
That's
just very. I mean, I didn't feel anything touch me or blow on me or.
We get people who've also done the ghost tour send us pictures of orbs that they have seen, and I don't see it in the picture, but they see it in the picture, and it's fascinating to me how close to the spirit world those connections are.
It's very strange, but you guys, your history again. We talked about the haunted history there a little bit, which is kind of neat because we do have some not quite as macabre as New Orleans would be, but we do have some interesting history
They're great stories, and they all are based in, quote unquote fact. What you just told me is a ghost story of a type. And so we're not making it up. It's something that you actually experienced, and we'll translate that into part of a tale on the ghost story. But all of them are documented, things that people experienced themselves and wrote down.
The history on land, you do the walking tours, you do the colonial garbs, which I don't envy any one of your employees that needs to wear that stuff.
They love it. We don't make them do it. They want to do it. And a number of them have like 4 or 5 different, I hate to use the word costume because it's sort of like tourism. They don't use it. It's their period dress.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that has to be just awfully hot when it's 95 degrees out in the summer. Maybe it's a new weight loss fad or something like that may work. But the different walking tours. Now, the walking tours were added a little bit later. They were added under your watch.
They were started in the 1970s by a woman named Paula Fishback. And she used to work for Historic Annapolis with St. Clair Wright many years ago. And she saw an opportunity and started the walking tour company. It was called 3 Centuries Tours at the time. Paula put her guests on our boats, and we put our guests on her walking tours. And I was her exit strategy. So in 2004, when she retired, she came to me and said, would you take this over? Would you purchase the company? And
was that a no-brainer for you?
It was a no-brainer, yeah. Our marketing is to the same people, and it's been additive for us and for our guests, really for our guests. We now have a number of different cruises where we will put interpreters on the cruises, like our Bay Lighthouse cruise. We have some of the guides who love being out on the water will get dressed up as a wickie or a lighthouse keeper, and they'll come and they'll interpret the lighthouses live.
Wow.
So that's really fun. We have pirate cruises, and so some of the guides get dressed up in pirate costume and will entertain. It's a very different thing from the other pirate product that we have in town.
Well, immersive experiences are really the thing now. I mean, you look at today's visitor, not tourist. Today's visitor is a younger person. Maybe that might be mentally, not necessarily physically, but I mean, I know my father well into his 80s was out there. He was active. He was golfing. He was traveling, and he wanted to immerse himself into it. They want to get in. People don't want to just come down and have things pointed to them, perhaps like they did 30, 40, 50 years ago. They want to get in there. They want to see the Thomas Point Lighthouse up close. They want to see the one off of Sandy Point. They want to, let's hear what's happening with the Severn River. Let's hear the tale. Right. What's that old bent piece of metal up there on the corner of the Naval Academy all about?
Right.
As you go there, as you walk around. You added it probably 3 years ago, the Architects,
yes. And that's in partnership with Historic Annapolis also.
And that, I did that, and it's one of your longer walking tours, not for the
faint of heart.
The faint of heart as far as being able to walk. So it's not very good for somebody that may be mobility impaired. But what a fascinating tour that is.
Oh, good.
I mean, just to sit there and I walk by these buildings day in and day out, every single day, and I don't notice this little piece and the neat thing about this isn't just your tour guides telling the stories and that they read out of a book or something like this. You have an actual architect.
Yes, for that we do. We have 2 that interpret it, and it helps you appreciate what you do walk by every day. There's so much history and depth and meaning within all of those little corners and details.
And I can't tell you how many times I've been with somebody walking by and say, oh, you see that house there? That's got that was originally on. It's like,
Flemish Bond. And
yeah, it's just fascinating. And you would know this, and somebody asked me the other day, but Annapolis has more 18th century, is it 18th century intact buildings anywhere else in the country? Is that
yes. And it's in a very small area, all of which you can get to by walking. And some of them are very close together. You mentioned the length of the Architects Tour. Our standard 4 Centuries walking tour is 2.25 hours. We do 90 minutes in the Historic District and then 45 in the Naval Academy. But within that 90 minutes in the Historic District, you can see Hammond Harwood, the Peka House, the Bryce House, and...
You've got the Capitol.
You've got the Capitol, surely, and McDowell Hall. Which was originally built by a governor of the colony of Maryland in the 1700s. So it's all right there and very compact.
Well, it is. It's a living history, and it's continuing to evolve as we move on. What do you have a preference personally on your land based or water based or
for what? Yeah, cruises we have?
What do you like the best?
Well, I have to love Harbor Queen she's just our mothership. She's what makes everything else happen, and we all depend upon her. And so many people have memories of different experiences on that vessel. We had her 40th anniversary 7 years ago. She was built in 1972, and we invited employees back. We've had a number of weddings from people that met crewing on her, and it was a really heartwarming, wonderful celebration. And just all these people who shared their memories of Harbor Queen.
Right.
So she's touched by far more people than anybody else.
Without a doubt. What happens to Watermark in the winter? I mean, you said you were a seasonal business, obviously. That makes sense. And I know most of your boats, if not all of them, are pulled out of the water. Or
the small boats are all pulled out of the water. What we call the big boats, which are the 65 footers and larger, get hauled out every 3 years and have their Coast Guard hull inspection and their bottoms done and whatever else we need done. But I always say it's our slow time. The full-time year-round staff hasn't figured out that there is no slow time.
Well, no, you're certainly planning for the time when it gets a little bit busier. But your walking tours do continue in the winter.
They do. We slow down. We offer them once a week in January and February and early March rather than 7 days a week.
Right.
Cruises, we don't do anything in January and February at all unless it is almost 60 degrees and not raining on a weekend. Because in the wintertime, if you get that combination of weather, people come downtown. And we want to be there for them. So we'll pop little Miss Anne, the little tugboat. Right. We'll send her over, unwinterize her, which takes about 15 minutes, and send her over to City Dock and do Spa Creek tours.
Get a little winter view. I mean, and again, some of the specialty stuff that you do. I mean, you do the Blue Angels, Angels Cruise, which is there's no better way to see the Blue Angels than out on the water.
It's remarkable.
You've got the Parade of Lights.
Yes.
Did I mess that up? Are they going to yell at me? Parade of Lights? Light Parade.
No,
the Light Parade. The Eastport Yacht Club Lights
boats.
Parade.
Isn't it the Parade of Lighted Boats?
I don't know. You can't say Lights Parade because that's some trademark somewhere. But all right, Eastport Yacht Club. Forgive me, I forget what it is.
We all know what we're talking about. Second Saturday of December.
To be able to be out there for that, you certainly look at the 4th of July, the fireworks.
Yes.
You do a New Year's Eve. The city does a fireworks on New Year's Eve and a New Year's Eve celebration. So you do the champagne stuff and everything else, and it's just really neat, as well as the I'll say the private but semi-public private charters. I mean, WRNR I mentioned does their Rock and River cruise probably 3 or 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. I know this year you've expanded a little bit to add some more music-based cruises as well.
Yes.
You had some sort of crazy ADHD Cinco de Dublin 5 first day of May.
Cinco de Mayo, which had an Irish band, and it was on the 4th of
Star Wars.
Yes, and then we had one of our employees' husbands loves to get dressed up as Darth Vader, so he came down there too. So we celebrated everything.
Hey,
and we had a good time.
That's really all that matters when you get out on the water there. Okay, you mentioned you're in Baltimore too. What boats do you have up in Baltimore? I know you've got the Raven.
We have Raven in Baltimore, which was built specifically for Baltimore. They were involved in the design of her. They wanted an iconic heritage vessel that was connected to the Baltimore history. And then we have Annapolitan too, which we haven't changed the name. But during the recession, 2008, 2009, there was an opportunity for space up there, and we had too many boats. They're just the private events weren't happening. And we tested out the market up there. Annapolitan does in Baltimore what Harbor Queen does here. So she does 45-minute harbor cruises every hour on the hour. And then once we got further enough along in the recession that we thought, okay, we're going to make it.
There's an end here.
We signed the contract to have Raven built and brought her down. And she got here in 2012, just in time for the bicentennial celebration of the War of 1812, which was really fun.
That's when Governor O'Malley made those really ugly license plates.
No comment. We had a ball in Baltimore.
Right.
We really did.
I know the air show that year was pretty spectacular as well out of Martin.
And now they have it every other year.
Yeah.
It keeps moving months. Last year it was in October, which was great for us because the boat show kicks us out of City Dock. So we just marched everything up to Baltimore for the air show up there. This year it's going to be, or next year I should say, 2020, it's going to be in September. So we don't have as much available in September, but we still will enjoy it.
And the Raven, is that your newest boat?
She is. Yeah, she is our newest boat.
what's on the horizon in the future for Watermark?
I told you I'd have to kill you, but we've got some ideas in mind, and we're always looking for new partnerships. Our goal is to continue to provide an exceptional experience and delight our guests and share the history and culture and fun of this area more than anyone else. So we're always looking for new ways to do that and to stay relevant to the new customer. Things are changing so quickly now that, it's just been an interesting process.
Here's a question for you, a little bit off the wall, but the boating industry tends to be predominantly male-oriented. Challenges for you personally being a female in that world?
No, I have some wonderful men who work here, and they do a fabulous job. No, I've never seen that as an impediment or a challenge.
It's fantastic. That's good.
In Annapolis, the two passenger vessel companies are both owned by women. You've got Jen Kay, who has Schooner Woodwind, and myself. And we have a third one now with the pirate boat, but it's he and his wife. And it's very welcoming.
Well, that's great. Well, so I'm going to do my math on my fingers here. So from 72, but I mean, you've got 40, almost 50 years.
Almost 50 years. And it'll be my 20th anniversary owning the company on Labor Day this year.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy 20th birthday.
Thank
One
you.
more year and you can drink on your boats,
There
I guess.
you go. There you go.
Well, Debbie Gosselin, thank you very much for your time today. Congratulations on the continuing success of a business that you took over from your father and continue to grow and grow and grow. The heck with you if you won't tell me what's on your future plans going down the hoop. But we wait
We'll
to see.
be here, though. We'll be here.
I don't ever see a time when Watermark is not leaving their mark on the Annapolis waterfront or the streets.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for listening to this special podcast for Annapolis. Please be sure to visit Annapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinions. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you your local news direct to your phone or tablet every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Subscribe on iTunes or Google Play.